Later Universalists carried forward Lee's themes. In 1805, the Universalist preacher Hosea Ballou said, "Heaven and hell are not to be found in the afterlife, but in the life we create here and now." That means we create hell by our unjust acts and our foolish ignorance of the sacredness of life. And we make the prayer come true, "Thy will be done on earth as in heaven." We make heaven here by our acts of love and justice and care. Ballou categorically rejected the notion that Jesus saved by dying on the cross, an act of state terrorism. Instead, he said, Jesus' embodiment of creative love and his works of justice and the beauty of his character saves us. The world needs this non-violent understanding of salvation. At the beginning of the 20th century, Clarence Skinner, the Universalist theological educator, emphasized the social ethics of Universalist theology. Listen to what he wrote in 1915, in the context of the First World War. He writes, "We accept the world for the joyous place it was meant to be. We like it. For us, it is no longer the world, the flesh, and the devil, but the world, the flesh, and God." He continues, "Modern religion must sanctify the world. The dominant motive is no longer to escape from earthly existence, but to make earthly existence as abundant and happy as it can be made. Therefore," he says, "let us smash the injustices, the tyrannies, the sins which imprison us, and speed those readjustments which will make life here and now justify our hopes." Amen. The world needs this universalist passion for counter-oppressive, justice-making work and reverence for life in this world. When I first came to Starr King School for the Ministry to serve as its president, Starr King is our Unitarian Universalist Seminary in Berkeley, California. I was new to Universalism, so I asked Gordon McKeeman, former president of the school and one of our most beloved senior Universalist ministers, if he would teach me about Universalism. He said, "Oh, it's simple. Universalists believe we are all going to end up together in heaven. So we might as well start learning how to get along with each other now." Being part of the Universalist heritage calls us to bring the gifts of this heritage into our lives and into our world. We are not in a time when we can afford to leave this light under a bushel. Universalism tells us we come to know the world as paradise when our hearts and souls are reborn through the arduous and tender task of living rightly with one another and with the earth. Nonviolence, generosity, and care for each other are the pathways into discovering that paradise is here and now. This way of living is not utopian. It's not about trying to imagine a better world. This way of living springs from a profound embrace of this world now. And it does not begin so much with knowledge as it begins with love. Love, an open heart for all of life, in all its difficulty and its beauty. Love is the seed from which the tree of knowledge grows in the garden of paradise. So here's a story to conclude. A few summers ago, my friend and co-author Rita Nakashima Brock and I joined my brother's family for a week-long backpacking trip into the Ansel Adams Wilderness in California on the eastern slope of the Sierra. To get to the trailhead, we took a Forest Service bus from Mammoth Lakes up to 8,000 feet to the Agnew Meadows. There were other hikers and mountain climbers on the bus with us, and while the bus switched back and forth on this narrow mountain road through the pine forests to the high alpine meadows, the man sitting next to me and I began a conversation. He'd overheard at the bus stop my brother talking to Rita and me about our theological work. "Have you written any books?" he asked. This is a question every author likes to hear. So I told him about our first book, Proverbs of Ashes, that exposes how Christian ideas that the death of Jesus saved humanity have functioned to sanction domestic violence, sexual abuse, racism, homophobia, and war. He nodded. He said he'd been raised Catholic and that his wife was the daughter of a Methodist minister, just like me. Church, he said, was important to him. But, he went on, I can't believe all those old doctrines. I never was comfortable with the bloody crucifix hanging over the altar. I couldn't understand why we would be worshiping it. Still, I learned a way of life from the church that I have not rejected. What is that way of life? I asked. Oh, it's simple, he said. Love your neighbor as yourself. Try to help, not harm. Do what you can to make a difference. He went on, we do foster care for kids. He said it was heartbreaking to see some of the violence, abuse, and deprivation the kids had experienced. But he and his wife welcomed them into their home and did what they could. Not even love can repair the damage sometimes, he said. I know, I replied. What is the book you are working on now about? He asked. Paradise, I said. Paradise, he mused, and looked out of the window of the bus for a few moments at the bright sky, the deep green pine forests, the alpine meadows with their flowers coming into view, the cascading mountain stream flowing down the side of the rocky hill, and above all this, the rising peaks of the sharp minarets. Do you mean paradise like where we are right now? He asked. Yes, I said, like where we are right now. We both gazed out of the windows for a few moments. We breathed the pungent, fresh mountain air. This is enough, he said. You know that. You know that because you help the kids, I said.